Okay, Giselle, now that you understand this story pretty well, let's talk about why Jesus told it. We've spoken some about how Jesus tells stories to communicate a message about God. So, who do you think the man or master in this story represents?
Maybe God.
I think probably so. So, if this man does represent God, what kind of invitation does God give people?
Well, I'm not so sure, but I don't really know what this dinner was supposed to represent.
Okay, let's think back about some of the past lessons that we've studied through together in which Jesus invites people to do something. Do you remember any of these stories?
Well, I remember the story of Levi when Jesus said to Levi to follow me, that that is a sort of like an invitation. And Jesus always tell people to uh, change their life and obey his teaching, but this is a little bit different than a dinner invitation.
That's right, those invitations are different than being invited to a dinner. Um, so, in this dinner, why do you think that the first group of people that were invited just made excuses about why they couldn't come?
It seems like uh, they don't care or uh, too much about the invitation from God, or they were so busy with their occupation in life.
And what about the other group of people that does accept the invitation? You said that these people have problems. And why do you think it's this group of people that does accept the invitation?
Um, well, I think maybe they appreciated the invitation more because they had problem. They think that this invitation is good opportunity um, from God. Maybe they understand how important the invitation is, but the people at the beginning don't um, think this invitation is such a big deal.
Sure, yes. And if this story still has meaning for us today, what do you think this story does mean?
Well, it seems today that there are people like um, you and your friend who follow God,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you are like these people who wanted to be with God and accepted the invitation.
And do you think that, as is the case in the story, that there are groups of people who today receive an invitation from God, but they simply make excuses?
Oh, yes, I mean, people are so busy with life and they do not want to stop and think about God. Maybe they don't even think God is real. So maybe they don't think God will want to invite them to a dinner. But if He does do this today, I think it's important for people to recognize how uh, the invitation is.
Right, yes. I believe you're right. I think that God has invited and wants many people to be with Him. And I'm glad that you've accepted my invitation to spend time to read with me and think about some of these important things.
Well, I enjoy it very much. I realized much about God, but now I am learning about Jesus, and it's very different than I thought. So I think that maybe someday I hope to be like one of the people that accepted the invitation from God, because if it's real, then it must be a very important thing.
Yes, you're right, and I hope so too.